cooperates tonight.
The casual hour is back for Game of the Year discussions. The stream's so nice, we've done it twice. I am Bobby Pease. Joining me is Chase Kinnicky. Hello, Chase.
Hello.
And Johnny Amazich.
Hello.
Yes, you heard correctly. We are doing our casual hour top 10 day 3 episode 304 again for a few reasons. Number one, if anybody who is listening to this tuned in on Friday, what was that, the 16th, when we did this live the first time, we were riddled with some tech issues. Chase leading into the episode with his computer. Johnny sounded like a really shitty version of Daft Punk most of the episode, and Game of the Year is important, and damn it, it deserves a little bit more respect than we gave it that night. We also ran into a bit of a clerical error. What would we call it that? Is that how we would say that?
If somebody actually listened to that show and went, wait a minute, I don't think that math checked out. And it's like, hey, that math didn't check out.
We're not mathematicians. Okay.
Yeah. It was like my 9th hour of podcasting that week, and some things just kind of slipped through the cracks.
I'd have to imagine how this played out. So we're working on getting our post episode, like art ideas, announcements made. And I sent everything to the guys here. And I have to imagine Chase was just going through that list like, fuck Bobby, really fuck Bobby.
I'll tell you what it was. I don't want to get too into the details here because it would be spoiling what our what our list is, and we're getting into that. But as I saw one of the games on our top 10, I went, that one's weird because I'm the only one who voted for that, and I had 2 other games that I liked better than that also don't show up on this list. How'd that happen? And then wait a minute, how did that happen? Yep. I realized I fucked up, and then I super fucked up because I also missed a couple of Johnny's favorite games as well. But that's all. It's all fixed now, and now that we'll talk about them again, and we'll have a great time, and we'll get the math right this time.
Yeah. Let's break down what this episode is. So for those of you who are listening, we've got 2 other episodes you should probably go to and check out first. Episode 302 and episode 303 is part 1 and 2 of our casual categories, where we break down varying degrees and topics such as best debut, best character, best moment or sequence, I wish I liked it more, so on and so forth. That will help make sense of why we are informed or feel the way that we feel about our personal top 10 list, which we're going to present to each other today. And then through the power of science, accurate science and math, we will put together a weighted list that we do have the ability to step in and be like, hang on a second, we need to talk through this, because our finalized top 10 is a representation of our show and how we all feel versus how I feel, Chase feels, Johnny feels about their individual stuff. So check out those other 2. We're going to go round robin. So we'll do 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9, 8, 8, 8, etc. And then we'll give you the dirty details on what is our official top 10 this year. So with that being said, we're going to do our standard format rotation, which is Chase, Bobby, Johnny. Chase, go ahead and give us your number 10 of the year.
Sure. My number 10 may come as a surprise to you. Well, not a surprise to you guys because you literally have already heard it. But I promised myself this would be my number 10 kind of no matter what. And it really tested me on whether I'd actually make it my number 10 and go through with it. But Digimon Survive is my number 10.
You are a madman.
It doesn't deserve this slot. I'll tell you that. It's not a very good game. The strategy parts of the game are really thin and really tedious. It's plagued by super low movement ranges for all your characters, and the maps are bad. They're bad maps. And then it has the visual novel part, which goes on way too long and is
really selling me on this, Chase.
I know, yeah, and it's also pretty shallow. Like the choices that you make don't feel like they matter, but there's just something to it, and I feel like if it just had a handful of adjustments, it could be a pretty good game, and this provides them at least a foundation to make a good game on. I don't know if it'll get a sequel. I kind of doubt it, but it's got a great art style to it. I actually really liked the writing. There just was too much of it, and a lot of it was redundant, but some of the writing that was there was really, really good. And ended up bonding with a lot of the characters and a lot of the Digimon characters too. I know we gave this award to a different thing, but I wanted to like Digimon Survive more than any other game this year. And I still want to like it. And that's why I'm giving it my number 10, even though Pandemic should probably go here.
Why won't you let
any
me
other
love
game
you?
could go here.
That's Chase to this game.
Yeah, basically. Anyway, that's my number 10. Bobby?
I have chosen Ollie Ollie World, a game that surprised the hell out of me because I don't have much of experience with Ollie Ollie in general. I really don't have a lot of experience with sports games outside of golf. This one, however, it just put its arms around me in the biggest way possible with its art, its style.
Dad gave you a big hug.
It gave
you a profile photo.
It gave me a profile photo. It gave me a lot of other art. I think it is really like my type of, I just need to like forget about some shit and skate a little bit and have a good time. I did the weird dumb thing where I was like, you're not going to move forward in the story until you master each level. So I got pretty far in it, and there's been a lot of DLC, and it's a game that I've been playing off and on my Steam Deck, and it's one that I'll probably see through. Just maybe it might take me a bit of time because, you know, games and podcasts, but it's really cool. I knew right away that it was a special game, and I'm happy that it made a list here for me, for sure.
I'm a little bit disappointed in myself that I didn't play Ollie Ollie World. I liked the first Ollie Ollie, which is a way different looking game, and I think feeling like I think this Ollie Ollie World has a lot more forgiveness to it, while still being pretty. It's not just Tony Hawk easy like that, but I do wish. You know, I bounced off Ollie Ollie and Ollie Ollie 2, Welcome to Ollie World. And I think if I had tried Ollie Ollie World, I probably would have liked that quite a bit.
It's good.
It's very good.
I got a couple hours into it, and I enjoyed my time with it.
Cool dad.
Cool dad. That was a great character. Johnny, your number 10 game, what is it?
It is Dwarf Fortress.
I mean, talk about getting you hooked right away.
Yeah, it's a late entry for you.
It was, and I think I mentioned this whenever we went through this list for the first time, but like if I'd had a full year to really get to learn and play this game, I could see it like being towards the top of my list. But
you put quite a bit of time in it in a short period of time too, though.
I think I'm like up to almost 10 hours.
That's a lot of dwarf time.
10.7 hours so far. And I still barely scratched the surface. It's such a cool, like, just deeply fascinating game.
It's just like a story generator at this point.
Yeah, story generator. Like you can
so wild.
You can make it whatever you want. If you want to have a fortress where all they do is they make cool art things that they sell to the elves and people around, you can do that. If you want to build a dwarf army and conquer the goblin hordes, you can do that. It's incredible. It's one of the coolest things that I've ever played, and I'm glad that it's finally in a format that is not for insane people.
I might watch some video of people trying to play it when it was in its original formatting, just because I'm very fascinated by that.
It's a trip, man. There's a really good no-clip doc. Like a shorter one that they made that I will send you a link to that really will give you an appreciation for what a wild thing this is.
Fair enough. We are now on to the Beatles' favorite area, the number nine category. Johnny, are you drinking beans?
I am.
Nice.
Thinking about those beans. I'm wearing a Christmas gift that Chase got me. An awesome new Liverpool hoodie, and I'm drinking a LaCroix that is being kept cool by this Bush's Beans koozie that Bobby got for me. So,
hell yeah,
doing all right.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. My number 9 is Platformer Toolkit. That's a game we haven't really talked about on the show. I think I talked about it once. It wasn't a part of any of our categories. I don't really think it belonged in any of our categories, but I think this game is super cool.
Sounds rad as hell.
and it's free. It's free as hell as well. It's on a browser. It takes you like 20 minutes to play. It's great. It's made by a guy named Mark Brown. He is the purveyor of Game Maker's Toolkit on YouTube, which is a channel that does a bunch of video essays about game mechanics and philosophy and more like the psychology of how gamers play games and why certain mechanics feel good and how you get to these ideas. He's done a whole series about Zelda dungeons that's called Boss Keys. This year he did a series where he learned how to use Unity and was building a game and documenting the progress he was making on that game. And then after that, he's just like, oh yeah, by the way, here's a second game I made. It's called Platformer Toolkit. And it's like a video essay in video game form. You start out, it's a 2D platformer, and it feels like shit. But it's supposed to feel like shit because the game isn't finished yet. He even comes on in his narration and says, this doesn't feel very fun, right? And then the game gives you these kind of Mario Maker style sliders that come down, and he's telling you about how character physics work, that you can adjust things like character movement speed and jump height, and then you can get into more granular things of your jump acceleration. So how fast do you get to your top height, and then how your deceleration too, how slowly it takes you to get down. And then just new panels keep unlocking with more different things, eventually getting into stuff like squash frames when like you land and your character squashes a little bit like they're in a cartoon, or having trails behind the character to feel the what he calls the juiciness. And it's a cool idea, and it made me think about games and mechanics and just jumps in a way I hadn't done before. I thought it was really, really cool. And then the best part to me is that once you finish the little game / tutorial, he gives you a bunch of presets for well-known classic physics. Like here's how Super Mario Brothers feels with this character on screen, and now you can compare how that feels to what your sliders have been doing. Or here's Sonic the Hedgehog, or here's Celeste, or here's Super Meat Boy. And you can test those physics and see, oh, wow, when I see it this way, Sonic and Mario control way differently. And I just thought it was super fascinating and super educational, and it ended up being my number 9.
I'm surprised we didn't hear more about that game throughout the year and in other categories, but
I mean, it was a tiny thing. It was it was a 20-minute experience. It was really hard to hold on to it over the course of a year. But when I went back and I looked at the games that I played and saw that one on the list, I went, oh yeah, that was a really unique thing compared to just another shooter or just another one of any of these games that I played. It had something special to say, and I thought that was cool.
Fair. Hey, number 9 is Tim Tim. Fell in love with this game for a lot of reasons. We played it on stream a handful of times. Actually, Johnny and I did, Chase and I did. So all of us got a chance to play it. I know
your third year of loving Tim Tim.
Yeah,
it is. I think it was the longest I think it's the longest game that I've been doing early access with. It opened up Pandora's box. Literally a PC was created because I was like, early access seems cool. If I can play games that are like Pokemon that aren't from Nintendo, that are actually something, that might be all right.
Let me just make this very small investment.
Yes. But Tim Tim did a lot of things that I've been waiting for Game Freak and Nintendo to do for the series. I feel like they have held back in comparison to Nintendo in some aspects, but I do feel overall Tim Tim is what Pokemon should have been a few years ago. And I hope that Nintendo does some bold moves here, and I hope that they follow suit and bring some of these quality of lives to it. I think this was one that actually had some really cool looking non-Pokemon monsters in it. I love the fact that this is a start to finish co-op experience that you can play with a friend. I think that there's some really great character customization in it. I think some of the choices in the game don't always land the ways some of the other great things that the game does. It's a very robust, very big game made by a very small team with a lot of love. And Tim is a game that I've even fired up a few times post completion just because I want to get all the Tims and I want to see about some of that weirdo stuff with it. So
I think there's a Christmas event going on right now, right? There's some new items and shit.
Yep, you can grab some of that stuff there. We'll see how it goes. Like it is what they're calling like an MMO, so I wonder if they're going to try and maintain events,
the expansions and stuff.
Yeah, like I could see them easily adding more content to it. But Tim's great. It's on everything. If you're listening to this and like, what? Tim? You can play it on PlayStation. You can play it on Xbox and PC. I believe it has cross-play and cross-progression. So really cool game. Check out Tim.
It's also on the Nintendo Switch. I know you don't want to say that.
Oh, yeah. That's a little blast. I just figured like people have enough of those types of games on that platform.
People want to play it on a good system is what you're saying.
Why would I? What? Yes.
A system that can run Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Yeesh.
Well,
Johnny, number 9.
Yeah. Stray. I feel like we talked a lot about Stray over the previous 2 episodes, so I don't need to say too much more other than it deserves a spot on my list.
I have a feeling somebody else might talk about Stray later on this show.
Just sense a tingling.
Speaking of, you want me to go right into my number 8?
Yeah, let's do it.
Somehow, some way, it's Marvel's Midnight Suns.
And you were hanging out until the real sun came up this morning.
Well, yeah.
So I was told.
Yeah, lost a little bit of time to the Midnight Suns. Yeah, this is where I had Norco before, and I was pretty confident that Norco would keep this space, and then I started playing Midnight Suns. You guys know me. I'm fucking exhausted by superhero shit. I think especially by the MCU in general. I mean, DC is its own weird tire fire that sometimes I end up watching one of those and is okay with it. But Marvel, it feels like the same cookie cutter shit all the time now. I think you should throw it away in the garbage can right next to zombies. Let's find a new thing to obsess over, please. But I do like turn-based strategy games. What?
I said ninjas.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Let's go back to ninjas. That'd be great. But I do like turn-based strategy games. This is made by Firaxis, the makers of XCOM Enemy Unknown, which is a game I love. Bobby and I played a little bit of that on stream last year.
Yes,
yeah, I think it was last year. So I was pretty excited. Hey, Marvel, whatever, but a new game from Firaxis, I'm game. And it's not XCOM at all.
No.
Almost 0% XCOM in here. It's an entirely new card-based system, and it's played in these really small arenas, which I still found to be thematically incongruous with the idea of superheroes that can fly, or fucking Spider-Man who whips all over buildings and is just flying around New York, and it's like, well, then why is he just standing still in this very tiny street? This is silly. This doesn't make any sense to me. But when I divorced the superhero-ness from the actual mechanics of the gameplay, it was just really strategically awesome.
Yep.
You're always outnumbered. There's always so many dudes, and you have so few actions that you're allowed to take per turn. And so you really have to be strategic with the way you use your abilities. Most abilities have some way of pushing opponents, so you can push opponents into each other, knock them into environmental objects that will damage large areas. There are cards that allow you to gain your card uses back if you KO an enemy when you use it. And so finding ways of refunding your actions as you go to try to chain more and more stuff in these limited actions that you have is is just the bread and butter of the strategy. And I found that to be a really fun balance as I'm going through, and I'm like, they just keep unlocking new things for me to try. I just unlocked the kind of training. I forgot what it's called. It's another acronym bullshit thing that Tony Stark came up with, because all of his stuff has acronyms. But you just go through this portal and you go through this training module, and you just only get to have one character. And there are so many dudes that you fight, and yet you're just playing cards and refunding cards and knocking things out and knocking things back into environmental hazards. And I'm just having a blast with that part of it, and coming in and building new cards that get new abilities. That stuff's been fantastic. And as long as I'm kind of skipping through the story, like sometimes I'll listen to what Spider-Man has to say, but you know, if it's talking about this brand new character Hunter or her mom Lilith, I'm like, I just don't give a fuck.
Bad. It's bad.
I skipped all the way fucking book club between Blade, Captain America, Captain Marvel, and my character, because it is just the cringiest shit ever.
It's not good.
But once you get to the game part is fucking rad, and it just forced its way onto my list against my will. God damn it! Norco should have had this.
Please, Chase. It was a forceful knockback.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. So my number 8 goes to Marvel's Midnight Suns.
I'm not mad about it. I really like that game. I feel almost the exact same way you do. But I did not give it my number 8. I gave my number 8 to a little game, similar but different, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. And here's the thing. I didn't want to have recency bias. I really like Midnight Suns, but there's a lot of that game I actively dislike and avoid. And Mario plus Rabbids iterates on
good all around.
It's good all around. It's not perfect, but it's something that I feel they somehow did it again with a series or a game that shouldn't have ever been. And not only
or at least been
again,
good. Like,
well, yeah, agreed. But they added in a layer to this in movement and some of the abilities that you get in it that are just phenomenal. Like from a strategic game, you get a very big playground, from team jumping to sliding to abilities to items to weapon upgrades. That just,
it's kind of the anti Midnight Suns in that
it really is
so open and free form that you just can experiment and have kind of your own style the way you play it. I like Midnight Suns. Obviously, I just talked about how much I like Midnight Suns, but part of me feels like I fucked up by playing Midnight Suns instead of Mario plus Rabbids.
You done goofed, Chase.
I like both of them for very different reasons. I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but it's at least how I feel. I think there's some DNA from Fights in Tight Spaces and Midnight Suns with the card system and the environmental stuff that makes me feel very good, because I love. That was our number 1 game of the year last year. But I think Mario and Rabbids, they've done some improvements to the overworld. There's some fun new characters. The absolute free form movement that you get, like it's more bubble movement. Like you can move in this vicinity versus you have 7 squares. I think it's really, really well done. And you made mention of it earlier, but what I will call out is it's if you're new to the show, I like the Switch, but I like to talk shit on the Switch more based off of it being long in the tooth. Somehow Ubisoft and Nintendo have made a beautifully looking game for the Switch. Like that thing looks so good, and I'm pretty impressed by just how well that's been done. So Mario plus Rabbids is a very, very good, not only Mario game, but a very good tactics game as well. Johnny, what do you got?
Funny you mention all that, because that's exactly why it's my number 8 as well.
Well, look at that. I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah. This game rules.
You didn't talk about it a lot throughout the year. Just really quick for my sanity.
Mm-hmm.
Have you gotten Bowser in your party yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay. If I know that there's a lot going on if you find yourself with a little room to breathe, you should try and get him. He's a lot of fun.
That game is on my mind a lot.
Yeah.
And it's one I am going to get back to because I've enjoyed my time with it so much.
And it might. Oh, go ahead, Chase.
I mean, it's a game that since I have on my Switch, I'm going to be out of town here during the break. And
please play some.
Yeah, I can't play Midnight Suns. That's on my PS5. The Switch version doesn't come until next year. I'm back again. But yeah, I'll have access to Mario plus Rabbids, so maybe I'll boot that up and play some of that.
You should do that for sure. The other thing is, we might be talking about it next year as well in one of our categories for additional content, because I'm actually for Midnight Suns as well. They're adding in characters to both of those games. I don't know if there'll be levels and story stuff with either one, but there's also a reason to go back to it down the line because they're going to add in more characters if you have the season pass for both of those. So that brings us to lucky number 7. Chase, where did you land on 7?
My number 7 is Vampire Survivors, which
I'm shocked.
Go ahead. What? You're shocked that it's not higher?
Yeah, dude, I could have swore this. I went into this episode thinking that was your number 1.
I mean, I'm a little surprised it's not higher too. I think it's mostly because I didn't play enough of it. I mean, that's not exactly true. I played quite a bit of Vampire Survivors. It's just it was never my main game. It was something I kind of nibbled at here or there, played an hour or two one day and then put it down for a week and then nibbled at it again. And I mean, that's great. It's that's fantastic to have a game like that kind of palate cleanser, but I don't think it's stuck in my mind enough to go, yeah, this is the fucking game. It was just like a thing I did. But I mean, here's the real thing though. Vampire Survivors single-handedly justified my purchase of a Steam Deck. I paid $500+ to play a $5 game on.
It's the consistently month by month the most played game on the Steam Deck.
$7 if you count the $2 DLC that just dropped. So
$69.
I have
I
have a very interesting relationship with this game. I didn't really connect with it the way that you all did. I liked the genre, I think. I did not necessarily like the way that this looked. I liked some of the more modern mechanics. We talked a lot about that. What I will say is this. I feel, this is a big statement, I think Vampire Survivors might be the most influential game that came out this year. And I say that because I feel it has somehow, seemingly overnight, spawned a genre that there are so many, it's like the meta indie genre right now. And so there's been already so many iterations on the formula that, I said,
that's the coolest thing about when something hits like this.
Yeah.
Is you see it splinter and people take that idea and run with it a completely different direction.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it on a previous podcast, but it's got like a auto chess like quality to it of here's a weird little subgenre thing that got kind of popular and now everybody's going to make their own version of it, and there are lots of other cool versions of it. We've talked about some of them on the show. 20 Minutes Till Dawn, that other one, Bobby, that you played that's kind of like Diablo. Yep, that one. It's cool. I have a feeling somebody else might talk a little bit about this, but I will say the thing I think is coolest about Vampire Survivors is how it deals with secrets, how it handles secrets. There are so many things to discover in this game. The chief among them is the combinations between the passive abilities that you pick up and the active weapon attacks that you get, and finding the right combos that lead into these ultimate attacks that you get that are just these screen clearing nutso buzzsaw things as hordes and hordes of enemies. It's so cool. It's just so cool.
One more Vampire Survivor secret.
Yeah, what's that?
I've been playing it on my phone.
Ooh, oh, you're right. Nice. Yes, it did get the touchscreen support. How does that feel? You liking the touchscreen with that?
It's fine. So it's designed for one hand. So you play it in portrait, which works really well for this. And
I think you can rotate it. if you want.
I've been playing it with one hand, but wherever you place your thumb, the virtual joystick pops up, and you just do that.
Sure.
So
Nice.
it works pretty well. I'm still running into some of the things that like turn me off from it a little bit with just movement and things like that, which I know improve, but I am playing it there, and I'm going to stick to it. I can see myself like before bed at night, seeing how far I can go a few times and check that out. So
I mean, it works. I think it works great with a mouse and keyboard. If you want that super precise keyboard movement,
Yes.
I think it works really, really darn well with a Steam Deck and having a controller to it, and just using an analog stick. And then hearing that it's at least functional with a touchscreen, that all
and
sounds
it's
great to me.
free to play on mobile.
Yep.
That's another thing.
Nice.
So
All
that's my
right, number 7.
Good pick, Chase. My number 7 is Stray. I've talked a lot about Stray, but what I'll say is I did not expect to talk about Stray, let alone play it. And it is a game that when I saw, I'm like, oh, okay, they're making that looks like a game that wants to be an indie darling, was what I was thinking. And the internet loves cats. It seemed like a very easy slam dunk for a lot of people to make a big wave. What I was not prepared for was the emotional journey that Stray took me on, and the reflective nature it imposed on me when looking back at specifically the last few years of the pandemic that we've been experiencing, and what it asked us to focus on as humans really stood out to me in a big way. It's a game about perspective. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, you're a cat, you're exploring the world as a cat, like, but it's a lot more than that. And I think it tells a really interesting story, and it causes you to think in ways I did not expect a fucking game where you play as a cat to.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite video game worlds ever. I think it's designed so well. If you are into cyberpunk, it takes a really good version of that. I think there's some very memorable characters. I nominated a lot of them this year for our category Best New Character, and it has some incredible lasting moments as well. It looks great. It runs great. It is an overachiever for me, and a very pleasant surprise across the board. And that leads us to Johnny. You don't happen to have another surprise here, right?
No, not a surprise for me.
Because you're the aficionado here. You're the go-to.
Yes, I am. I'm the go-to guy for lengthy JRPGs. And
Well, at least like the first 10 hours of them.
First, like 40 hours of this one.
He's essentially the pilot program for JRPGs. That's exactly what he is.
No, my number 7 is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which came out on the Switch in July, I think. And I've been just continuously chipping away at it as the years progressed. And as I mentioned, I'm about 40 hours deep into it, approaching the halfway mark, I feel like, based on what's happening in the story, which is absolutely bonkers, and I love. And I saw a quote on Twitter from one Jan Ochoa of Giant Bomb saying that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is what Kingdom Hearts wishes it could be. And it's the most true statement I think I've ever.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Because Kingdom Hearts is trying to go for this like super like much more meaningful like story that's telling this like super complex thing about like, you know, love and the
Isn't it
meaning
just
of
a
life.
Disney movie?
Yeah. And it, like, you know, it's super convoluted, and this is
just, it's just Naruto if he was in a Disney movie.
It's a Disney isekai.
I mean, it absolutely is an isekai. It's multiple isekais in one game. Yes,
but Xenoblade does it in a way that feels genuine, and I'm rooting, even though the writing can be a little cheesy. Like I'm bought in. I love these characters. I love this journey they're on together, and I'm just happy while I'm playing it. Like every time I pick that game up, I'm like, fuck yeah, it's time to play some Xenoblade. Whether I'm running around out in the field or interacting with side characters. I love the way that they incorporate new classes, where that like it happens when you meet significant story characters.
Yeah.
Or there are certain conditions that can be met to unlock a class for you, because you can have a companion traveling with your party of 6, and that companion will eventually unlock a new class that you can switch to with any of your other characters. And being able to have a character play pretty much any class and master those abilities, and then having 3 abilities to you that aren't part of the class that you have currently equipped really helps you like balance. Like I can have an attacker who can also heal in a pinch.
Damn.
And the stuff where they fuse together and have special moves they do. It's incredible. I love it so much. It's a really
sounds like another game that Chase can play on his break.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound cool. It's not a surprise to you guys anymore because you heard it the first time, but I did buy that game. I didn't play it. It was something I considered jumping into and playing and surprising you that I had finished it when you obviously wouldn't have. But I couldn't do it.
He was going to spite finish a game just to rub it in your face, Johnny.
It would have been cool. It would have been cool.
I would have cared.
But I mean, I bounced so hard off the first game, and then I bought the second game because it's the anime weeby one. And I thought, okay, that seems neat. I guess people are talking about it. I should give it a shot. And then I never played it. And then 3 came out, and you guys immediately switched to talking about 3. And I don't know. I want to like this series, and hopefully 3 is the one that does it for me. I think I'll just end up starting 3 sometime. I don't know when. It's certainly not until after Fire Emblem next year.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Damn. All right. Well, Johnny, you rounded us off at 7. Chase, I believe we are back to you with number 6.
Yeah, my number 6 is Citizen Sleeper, which, man, I was so hot on Citizen Sleeper when I first booted it up. I love the artist who made the character designs. His name, let me make sure I get it. It's Guillaume. I'm probably saying that wrong. Guillaume Singelin. He's also known as Blackie-san. So if you want to look him up on Instagram or something, I think his art style is fucking rad. And seeing it translate into a video game was super cool. And it wasn't just the art, the writing in that game. I was hanging on every single word of the writing. It's so well written. It's so impactful. I just had a fantastic time. And in the early game, that the game gives you, like, you are really trying to survive. The game mechanics, it has this kind of dice system, tabletop stuff. It has a really limited amount of inventory of things that you're able to get, and you have a lot of different things that you need to pay to stay intact as this kind of android machine. You need things that keep you stable, keep you alive, keep you fed, and I was having a fantastic time. I don't really like survival games, but I was having a fantastic time just keeping my character alive. There was this desperateness paired with luck, and it felt like such a great system. And then there was one point where I think I ended up getting a freebie. There was a time where I was like, oh, well, I'm going to have to sacrifice on this a little bit. And the game's like, oh, I guess like first one's free. Here you go. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's fine. And then I dug into a little bit more, and I learned that the game kind of just keeps doing that for you. So you never have
to worry too much.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it has enough confidence to give you that fail state to say, no, this is locked out now. It just kind of wants you to finish the game, which is noble, I guess. But when the game is about survival like this, it cheapened it a little bit for me. And then you get to the final third of the game, and if you are a reasonably decent player who's just kind of playing the game and unlocking stuff as you go, you get to a point where you just break the economy, and now you have as much of the stabilizing fluid, enough food, enough everything, that you're not scrounging for anything anymore. You're not wanting for anything, and yet the game's writing is still trying to convince you that that you're on the run and somebody's just out to get you and you're barely making it. Like, no, actually, I'm doing fine. I'm quite comfortable. And that left me really heartbroken that these two things were just on opposite sides of the spectrum at this point. It broke my heart enough that when it did give me an opportunity to take an ending, I'm like, yeah, I'll take an ending right now. I need to get out of this.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a little unfair. Yeah, it's a little unfair because I actually really like my ending for my character. But also, it was definitely a sense.
You're like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over.
There was a conscious decision that I want to be done with this because it's breaking my heart at this point. What I will say, though, is the further from the game that I get, the less I think about how broken the economy mechanics were and how much more I think about my character's choices, the friends I made, the feeling of being desperate, the feeling of being chased, being hunted at one point. That stuff sticks with me way more, and it makes me think, damn, Citizen Sleeper was a cool game. I never want to play it again. They added some DLC stuff, and I see no reason that I would ever want to go and try that stuff. It's a little bit Shadow of the Colossus like in that I had my story. This is my story. Anything more I do is just going to
your characters where they're at. Totally. I think that this game was supposed to be a lot bigger for me this year. I think this game was one that I saw being near the top of my list, and it's a game that I got lost in the bad way. And I wish, if this was my personal, like, I wish I liked it more, it would be mine.
I think other similar games kind of came in and filled that space for you guys better. And honestly, I think there are other games that came out this year that are similar that do most of the things that Citizen Sleeper does better.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I probably the art and the music have a lot to do with it.
I think that's fair.
This game is just way more my aesthetic than other games that we might talk about later. That's my number 6.
That's a solid one. I think mine's also solid. I have God of War Ragnarok as my 6th favorite game this year. I'm
surprised that's as low as it is. I thought that would be higher up in your list.
I really dig it. But you will soon find out the true pain of killing your darlings. And I do think somebody else on this show might have.
Has Kratos ever killed his darlings?
A lot of them.
A lot of them. Yes. Some intentionally. God of War Ragnarok's a fantastic video game. Some of my favorite representation of Norse mythology, but I know there's a lot more that we'll talk about here in a little bit, I think. And I'll chime in where I can. Johnny.
Yeah.
6.
Mine is Tunic.
What? Wow.
What a special little game, and I feel I'm bummed that I did not finish it because I went back to it and I didn't know where I was, what I was supposed to be doing.
Where did you leave off at? Do you know where you're at in the game?
I'm in a temple.
Okay.
I forget the name of it.
Thank you for that.
Eastern Vault Temple or something like that.
So have you rung 2 bells yet?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It was right after that.
Okay.
And then like I can see what I need to do. I'm just trying to figure out how the fuck to do it. We can talk off pod.
Yeah,
about
we'll talk off pod. The other thing I'll say, we didn't make this announcement this time around, but too late now. Heavy spoilers. We'll have a lot of those here.
Yeah.
Especially as we're getting closer to some of these.
Yeah. So
anyway,
I feel like
spoilers.
I feel like someone else may have more to say about Tunic, so I will just leave it there.
Maybe so. All right, and we have made it to the top 5. Congratulations, you two. Chase, what is the first game in your top 5?
My number 5. I didn't just do this because it
Bullshit.
rhymes, but
Bullshit.
it didn't hurt. It certainly didn't hurt. My number 5 is Live Alive. Live Alive is super cool. It's a game I never got to play in the past because it was Japanese only, and there was a fan translation that came later, but not one that I had played. So when it was coming back for Nintendo Switch with an HD 2D looking remake, I'm like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I'm into this. I'll give it a shot. And it was just so much more than even what I thought it was going to be. The things I heard is that it was a uniquely interesting JRPG, and it's
Did it live up to that?
It did. It lived up to that. That's terrible.
Wow.
That's fucking awful. This is a JRPG that has a tactical style combat to it. You are standing on a grid when you're fighting opponents, and your attacks have different ranges, or this attack can go as far as it wants, but only in a diagonal. Like you're playing chess and you're the queen or something, and it's got some really cool ideas to it. It's this segmented story that's broken out across different timelines, going from ancient times with dinosaurs and caveman to the far future where you play as a robot on a spaceship that's kind of replaying the plot of Alien. It wears its influences on its sleeve, and yet also finds a way to be super unique in a lot of the things that it's doing. I mean, there's one whole storyline that's just a Street Fighter 2 style boss rush, and it's so cool. And it's short. It's so short, and it's neat. I had a fantastic time with Live Alive. It's considering other remakes that came out this year of classic RPGs and strategy games, like a Tactics Ogre, that I just did not have any fun with whatsoever. This game lived up to my expectations and more, and went from being, this is the game that has Megalovania in it that Toby Fox liked, to
God.
I think Megalovania is maybe the least interesting part about this game, and that speaks to just how interesting the rest of the things are in that game. Because also Megalovania still fucking rips. That's a great song, but there's so much to love in this game, and I had a great time.
Hell yeah. My number 5 game, Horizon Forbidden West. I love Horizon Zero Dawn. You all know it's one of my favorite games of all time. I really enjoyed Horizon Forbidden West. I just feel that there was something so special about the unknown and the newness of Zero Dawn, that this whole world, like, why is the world the way it is, like, just propelled me through this game in a way that, like, not too many games have. Like, I was so compelled.
It's hard to hit the emotional highs that you got from the first game. To your point, like that game was all about newness, and it has this really huge reveal at the end that feels like a big climax, and this game happens after that. So
and I think that
the first game made too much money.
Yes.
I do think that, like, if this is going to become a trilogy, which it certainly seems like that's where they're going with it.
Yes.
Is the third one the VR one?
No. It does feel like they were trying to do some Empire Strikes Back moments with this one. And what I did appreciate, and what because I think the combat improves, I think the world design improves. I really liked the focus on not just Aloy, but like who is Aloy to people and the people that she surrounds herself with. And I really dig the companions that they brought into the game that you can do specific quests with, and even in like loyalty quests. Felt very, very much like Mass Effect 2 in the best way possible. And again, this is one of the best looking games this year, It runs really well on the PlayStation 5. I am a huge fan of Horizon. This one makes my top 5. It does not fly as high. I mean, you can fly in this, but not as high as the first game flew. And that's a really cool thing for me. So that was my number 5. Johnny, what do you got?
Mine is Norco, which we have talked about at length over the course of these deliberations. And it has some of the best writing, I think, in a game that I've played.
I would agree with that.
Some very touching, very poignant, bittersweet, hilarious. Like, it covers the spectrum emotionally, and it is genuinely funny, which is no small feat for a video game to actually be sincerely funny, especially when you're relying on writing alone and not voice acting and animation to go along with it. So
especially when the topics are as relatively heavy.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and it makes the moments of levity work that much better.
And they never feel like it doesn't feel cheap, I guess. Even though what's happening is very silly and surreal, the whole world is surreal that you're in. So it never feels out of place, at least to me. So.
Yeah, I think that's super fair. All good points made on Norco for sure, Johnny. And that brings us to number 4. Chase, what do you got for us?
All right, well, stop me if you've heard this one before. My number 4 is a turn-based strategy game.
You like those?
I do like those. My number 4 is also an HD 2D style game.
Okay.
That sound like the thing I might
now
like.
I know.
Maybe.
Now we're getting into it.
My number 4 is Triangle Strategy, which I think there's a lot that I like about Triangle Strategy. Yes, I have a type that it's turn-based strategy. It's the HD 2D pixel stuff that I think is still a cool art style, and I kind of just can't quit. I'm looking forward to Dragon Quest 3. I'm not looking forward to Octopath Traveler 2, but I like the art. But I mean, this game had a story that I genuinely was interested in. The voice acting, not so much. I bounced back from Japanese to English to try to just get something that I liked, and I just struggled with the voice acting. But the story itself, I had a really good time with. It offered some really tangible choices that led to different endings, different scenarios, different character recruitments, going to completely different areas, and that's super cool compared to other games that have like you all start at the beginning at the same spot, and maybe you diverge a little bit as you go on, but now we got to get back to converging again to wrap this thing up. And this game has some very disparate story beats from the stuff I've read and seen. I had a great time with the characters. They're all very unique and play in different ways. Each of them has unique abilities that make them interesting to try and made me want to build them up and test them out. And I think what's also really cool to me is that this is a game where Square Enix kind of fucking listened to people.
Yeah. That was
the game was called Project Triangle Strategy.
Oh yeah, they did like a demo, right? Like 2 of them. 2.
They put a demo out for Project Triangle Strategy, had people test it out, and then put up a feedback survey for people. And I remember I did not like that demo. I thought the characters' movement ranges were really low. Their attack ranges were super short, to the point that an archer just didn't feel like they could do anything because they had no reach on their weapons. And then somebody would just run up on them and murder them. I just didn't like it.
You're not going to convince me that there's not a prog band named Project Triangle Strategy.
I believe it. Maybe that's why they had to change the name. But yes, the next time we heard about the game, Square Enix came out with a new trailer and said, hey, here's all the stuff we changed based on feedback, and lo and behold, a lot of that stuff was things that I mentioned, and there were other things that I hadn't mentioned that they'd also switched. And they didn't fix everything that I didn't like about it. It's still not a perfect game in my eyes, but they did a lot of stuff that made me feel like my voice was being heard in a way that it certainly wasn't when Bravely Default 2 did a similar thing and still fell flat on its fucking face. God, that game. You should. That game was not an R where I wish I liked it more, because I do not wish that I liked it at all. That game was bad, and it should be never thought of. But I had a great time with Triangle Strategy, and part of me kind of wants to go back and play it again to do a different route and to get different characters and to try it. And I know there's a Fire Emblem game coming out next month, so that's not going to happen. But
no.
I do look fondly back on Triangle Strategy, and I think that was a cool time. I'm looking if they make a second game, I'll play that too.
Nice. I'd like to talk about Grounded being my number 4 game. Obsidian makes 2 very good games this year. Grounded is the one that I had a lot more time with, by and large, due to the early access and Game Pass availability. But you all know I'm a sucker for a good survival crafting game. I know
you're a sucker.
I'm a sucker.
Pico.
Subnautica is way up there, and I think that's kind of the North Star for these modern takes on that genre. But Grounded feels like a very strong contender, and in some cases a better North Star than Subnautica. I think that there is a really cool story that they've created. The writing is as sharp as you would imagine from Obsidian, albeit there's not as much as there are in traditional Obsidian RPGs, but they've created a game that has tapped into my modern love for games and what I really chase nowadays, while still reminding me of what led me to this point from my childhood. And I think that's a really cool thing for me, because I'm going to all these really neat things that they've designed into this backyard Honey, I Shrunk the Kids-esque story that are action figures, tape players, candy, that I like. It's not a 1-for-1 because of copyright law, but you could definitely tell, like,
I mean, it's definitely that, though.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. And so some of my favorite moments playing that game with my friends, I really would love Chase to play it. I think this is maybe one of the, there's a lot of games that we're talking about that Chase should play, but I think being an Obsidian game, especially for Chase, this is up there.
I feel like 2022, you could just write the games Chase should have played instead over the whole year.
I mean, there's some you have on your list here that I think, had you played more of late entries, but some of these other games that we have here, would absolutely trump what you have on your list. I feel that. I feel that.
I don't disagree. I think I made a lot of mistakes in what I played there, and I don't know. It's neither here nor there compared to what we're doing at this point. It's true.
You get loves.
And you get loved. Johnny, did you pick Grounded for your number 4?
I didn't.
Damn.
Grounded is a fantastic video game. But I did not spend nearly as much time with it as you did. My number 4 is Vampire Survivors.
Wait a second. I think I've heard about this one.
Yeah. It showed up on Chase's list a little bit further down. You might remember.
Yes.
But this is a game that I was unsure of whenever it first came out, and people started talking about it on Twitter and different places online. I picked it up, and it didn't fully click for me until several months later into the year. And then the last 2 or 3 weeks leading into Game of the Year, when I was revisiting all the things that I thought might make it onto my list, just to make sure I wasn't just dealing completely with recency bias.
Sure.
And I fell even harder for this game. It is deceptively simple, and it's, like Chase said earlier, it's full of secrets, and eventually you like learn there are upgrades to the different weapons and passive abilities, and they just transform into wholly new things. And it's incredible.
You were sending me text messages here within the last week that was, hey, have you unlocked this? Have you unlocked this weird thing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And there's something exciting that we've been playing this game for a good chunk, and there's still
and they keep adding
little
more
things.
They just put DLC out like 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's really cool. Like it, and it, you know, it doesn't. It looks like an old Castlevania game or something.
Sure.
Which I know is like for you, Bobby, like was kind of a turnoff at first, but it's something like once the further you get into it, the more gold you get and abilities you unlock or improve, and the easier it gets to get further into those runs and really, like just feel like I am the bullet hell.
Yeah,
And it's incredible. Like it's such a cool little game that I'm so glad came out this year. And yeah, we talked about it earlier, but it seemed to have just, I don't know about whole cloth, but it's almost made like a whole new subgenre of games, which is really cool when something like that happens. And in an industry where so many things are almost exactly the same.
it's true. Especially like indie games tend to favor each other. I mean, there's a lot of creativity in that, but there is absolutely some past that. And I mean, we're seeing it right now with this game, as I called out earlier. Like, there's a ton of these already popping up, but it had the lead for a long time of being super unique.
Yep. So that's my number 4.
Nice. We have somehow made it to our top 3. This is where things start to get real interesting. And to get things very big, you have to get small. And Chase, let's get small.
My number 3 is Tinykin. Tinykin fucking rules. I had such a good time with this game. On one hand, it sounds a little bit like what you're feeling with Grounded, in that it's a small thing in a big world, or a small thing in a normal sized world. But actually hearing what you said all the way back when you were talking about Stray, I think has even bigger parallels. You talked about this changing perspective when you are a cat in a city like that, and how you navigate a space as this different sized animal that fits in these different things and has a different move set. And Tinykin, I feel like, is very similar in that it is about looking at this space where you're just this tiny little boy who's found these Pikmin-like creatures called Tinykin that give him abilities to move stuff, or to climb on as a ladder, or to use as like a electric current device, and you're able to just explore this space and find more of the Tinykin to just have this massive posse following you around of little fun dudes, and you solve puzzles. And I just really enjoyed the recontextualization of these different things. It's why I probably would like Grounded if I try it, because the idea that here's a sink, and what is a sponge like in this game? Oh, well, obviously it's like a spring that you can bounce on to get higher. Just the ways they are inventive with the level design of these household objects. And the final level, you're going to this kid's bedroom playroom area, and just now it's a bunch of fantastical toys, and you being this small thing, the bugs that are around you treat this as a theme park, because look at all this cool crazy stuff here. It's just a really inventive game. I love its art style, this really vibrant 2D looking kind of like flash animation stuff for the characters, with a 3D, I mean stylistic 3D. It's not going for photorealism. Different art style that contrasts really nicely with the character designs. I had a fantastic time with Tinykin. I would love to keep playing more of it. Like if they released a DLC that was, here's another room in this house that you can play, I'd be all over it. It's It was so cool. I mean, it's repetitive. I totally get the criticisms about it. You are basically just doing the same thing over and over and over again in each different room, but that was not an issue for me as a person who really enjoyed Assassin's Creed 1. I'm fine doing the same 3 or 4 things over and over again if I'm just having a really good time doing it.
To tinker, you like list, you like to check boxes. Tiny King rules. We should have given a nod for best moment, which is, there's a few there, but soap sliding across those wires throughout.
Soap sliding was pretty cool. Yeah,
it was
some
good
stuff.
Tiny King's fun, man. Check that game out, and then go play Pikmin 4 in 2023. I put Hard Space Shipbreaker as my number 3. A game that this is a year that I've had to finally get to check in on. Grounded. I've got other
Temtem.
Yeah, Temtem on here.
All your early access chickens came home to roost this year.
Ooblets was another one.
Ooblets, yeah.
But Hard Space Shipbreaker is a game that really did, for being such a chaotic thing and a scary thing, it was some of the most like therapeutic gaming I've had, and just going in and breaking shit and moving pieces. And it felt good to have a job that was so normal in a period when things weren't. And I say normal, but I'm in a spacesuit breaking apart a ship, but you're literally just break this piece, put it here, break this piece, put it there. And it felt good to have a game that reflected on just work when a lot of people were evaluating their careers. I made a career change, a significant career change in the midst of this early access. It's a game that really focuses on work quality, life that happens around work. And I really think that they had no business sneaking in such a good storyline for a game that was just fine being this fucking break apart ships and get currency for it. I think
of all the games I didn't play this year, which are many, that I should have played, this one might be right at the top of the list. I played an hour of it and loved that hour. And I think I watched you do streams of this game, and I had a great time watching all those streams, your successes and your failures. In fact, I think I enjoyed the failures even more. But it's one I am jealous that you got to play for so long, and now that I have a proper PC and can play it, and did play a little bit of it, I'm jonesing to get in there and do that kind of menial manual space labor, because it just seems like it's a really well made game, and I want it so bad.
I think if the three of us would have played it, not necessarily equally, but a significantly more amount of shared time than we did this year.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it could have been pretty high up on our list.
If I could have gotten a handful of hours under my belt, it would have easily made this top 10, if not super high on it.
Yeah. But Hard Space Shipbreaker is fantastic. It is in 1.0. You can play it about everywhere. Well, no, I take that back. You can play it on Xbox and PC. Maybe PlayStation. I don't think PlayStation. Anyway,
not sure. You can play it on a Steam Deck.
You can play on a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
You should play Hard Space Shipbreaker. It's very good. Johnny, what about you?
Yeah.
Do you have a third favorite game this year?
I do. It's Call of Duty.
If he has a fourth favorite game and a second favorite game, he better have a third favorite game.
I just kind of figured it'd be a Johnny thing to be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I didn't finish.
Oh, he started his top 10 list, but he couldn't finish it. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep. It's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which is maybe the biggest surprise for me this year, that I like a new Call of Duty as much as I like this one. Because
I think you might be the only person on this podcast who's surprised by this.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Because
you like Call of Duty. We know this.
I do like Call of Duty, but usually not this much.
Okay.
I mean, you like Modern Warfare this much.
I did. No, I like this more than the 2019 one.
I guess what we're saying
Vanguard,
is we're not surprised.
Black Ops Cold War, and it's like, it's like pizza. Like, even when it's not great, it's still fun to shoot stuff. But this just feels like,
even when it's not great, it's still fun to shoot pizza.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. There's just something about this one. They nailed it.
Hey, Johnny, I got news for you.
Yeah.
This is the best Call of Duty's been in a very, very, very long time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly.
What's the last Call of Duty you played, Bobby, before this one?
The very first Call of Duty that launched on the PlayStation 4.
Not a good one. Ghosts.
Ghosts. Oh shit.
That was the last Call of Duty I played.
I understand why that was your last one.
Yeah, it wasn't great. So it's awesome. I'm so glad that a new one isn't coming out in 2023. That we'll just get more of this one, because this one is awesome. Warzone 2.0 seems really cool. I haven't played a ton of that. I really love the new DMZ mode.
I do too.
After getting my cheeks clapped in Tarkov, when I tried playing that, being able to go into something that's a little bit more like baby's first escape from Tarkov type situation was much more approachable to someone like me that does not have the time nor the patience to really learn everything you need to learn about a game like Tarkov to get good, as they say.
If this game was just the campaign or just DMZ,
well, it could be just DMZ. DMZ is free.
Yes, but I mean, my question is, do you think it would still take your number 3 spot, or is it being this package of all these things that you like pushing it up into this number 3 spot for you?
I could see if it was just the regular multiplayer and the campaign, it would probably slip down to number 4. Vampire Survivors would move up to number 3. But because it is this, as you say, like collection, like they just like, here you go. Here's a bunch of amazing Call of Duty, which you haven't had in years. It's great. I love it.
And it has that third person mode, which I still think is the most wild thing that I've seen in a Call of Duty game.
Yeah.
All right. Chase, number 2 for you.
Number 2 goes Pokemon Scar. No, not Scar. Pokemon Legends Arceus.
We about wrap this.
I feel like this game got a little bit buried. One, because it came out in January and it's hard to remember games that came out 12 months ago. And 2, I think everyone's a little fucking tired and sick of hearing about Pokemon right now after Scarlet and Violet came out, and we're not necessarily everybody's cup of tea. But if you go back to January, Pokemon Legends Arceus ended up being fucking good despite all expectations.
It was very good.
We ragged on the trailers for this. It seemed like they were just going in the wrong direction. What the fuck was this? And then we get it in our hands, and it's different. It's certainly different from a traditional Pokemon game, but it was different in the right ways, where I think Scarlet and Violet had a lot of things that were also different, but different in ways that either weren't executed as well or just weren't good on the face of it. And I was really happy playing this game. It made me excited to go hunt for Pokemon again.
Yeah,
and
it was so good.
Part by far.
I love, like finding the Pokemon and catching them was way more fun than the battling. I didn't like the battling
Pokemon
at all.
Snap, you cowards.
Yes, absolutely. Like I would love to just go around these spaces and see these Pokemon in their natural environment and take photos of them.
And like just make that a fucking like. Yeah. What was that game that came out a few years ago about photography? Really kick-ass soundtracks. No,
no. I know what you're talking about. Umurangi Generation.
Make that this.
Yeah, I can see it. But even still, I had a great time. I like the lore stuff that went into this, that this is ancient Sinnoh, and it was kind of a companion piece to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, also not very good Pokemon games. But I just had a great time. I really just liked exploring that space and seeing the Pokemon. The alpha Pokemon I thought were so cool. I just like catching a big Pokemon with red eyes. That's all I want. And this game had it for me. So congratulations to Pokemon Legends Arceus. You're my number 2 game. I'd love to see them do a sequel that also has a camera in there.
Hell yeah. My number 2 game of the year is Norco. Johnny talked about this for his number 5. I'll add just a few thoughts on it. One being this blindsided me. And playing games as long as we've played games, when that happens, it's a really special thing to have a game that just absolutely floors you, especially one that wasn't on your radar. Like, I would much rather be surprised by an unknown than satisfied by an expected game. And having this surprise game come in and wow me, I was so captivated by the story they were telling. Chase, you mentioned the subject matter is difficult. I think a game that caused me to reflect on my upbringing and religion and relationships with my parents, and just coming from a shithole small town. There was a lot of things that bubbled up on this game that made me just reflect on homecomings and longevity, what was happening behind the scenes in all these relationships. It is a game that challenges a lot. I mean, it makes you feel quite a bit of things on just what you're encountering. It's, as Johnny mentioned, hysterical times. It's horrifying in others. I mean, I don't think a game has made me unexpectedly scared or unexpectedly like humored quite like this one. And it's a game that Johnny mentioned, and I'll double down on this. I think it might be some of the best writing I've experienced in a game, period. And it's very smart and engaging, and it uses this is the other thing I'll call out. It uses dialogue in a way that does not feel forced. Like, we talk about Midnight Suns being just a fucking slog to read through when it comes to dialogue choices. There's been games in the past that we've played, like Oxenfree and a few others, where they try to have a certain speech or a lingo that just doesn't quite stick and land. Where Norco, I think, not only gets the dialect of that area right, but it also uses slang effectively. It's fantastic. It's won a lot of awards for us this year, and I think it's an incredible achievement in gaming. It's one of the first games ever to, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it Tribeca that it won? I think it's the first game to win at that category.
Maybe, I don't remember hearing that.
That sounds familiar.
So anyway, play Norco. It's really, really good. And Johnny's looking up to make sure I'm keeping you all honest on what this game's
it won first ever Games Award at Festival.
Very cool. Well deserved. Johnny, what about you? Number 2.
My number 2 is a little indie hit called God of War Ragnarok. This is a game that I have been looking forward to playing since I finished God of War 2018, and it really did not disappoint. I think the story wasn't as tight as what it was in the 2018 game, but it was also doing a lot more and showing us, similar to how Last of Us Part 2 did, like the effects of your actions in the first game and the repercussions of those, and the consequences to our actions don't always line up with what our intentions were whenever we took those actions, and having to deal with that, and being a young man trying to figure out who he is and where he fits into in the world, being a father who is largely absent, and hiding who he is, and them trying to figure out what their relationship is going to be, is just it all worked so well for me, and had a lot of parallels, to, I mean, obviously it's not one-to-one, considering these are like Nordic and Greek gods we're dealing with here, but in terms of relationships and fatherhood, it really spoke to me and hit in a pretty significant way, just like the first game did. And all that to say nothing of how fun the combat is, how beautifully designed the worlds are, how nice it is to look at. For me, it's all about these characters and getting to hang out with them, and seeing their motivations and just seeing how the story plays out, because it really didn't go in any direction that I was expecting it to.
Yeah, I think it's a satisfying step for them, and I feel that not only did they flesh out what they needed to further with Kratos, but I think that they showed a really big impact that just them being there has had on everybody around them.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, they told a bigger story here while focusing in on some other elements. Like, it was very much a small story at times, but a huge bombastic one.
Yeah.
It's fantastically written too.
Lots of extremely personal moments, very intimate moments. And I think it could have easily they could have probably made 3 games out of all the story that they tried to tell.
For sure.
But it never really affected my enjoyment of the game. So I absolutely loved it.
Somehow we have gotten to our top games of the year. We're at number 1 here. And Chase, why don't you kick us off here and bring us home? What was your number 1 game this year?
My game of the year went to Norco. Shit, no.
Wait,
no,
yeah, I think that's right. That sounds right. That sounds right.
That's all right. Sorry. It's a different game that starts with N. Neon White. That's what my my game of the year was.
Video game.
I came late to Neon White. It's you guys had played it. You guys had jockeyed back and forth for position on the leaderboards for your time stuff. And when I came, I'm playing on the Nintendo Switch that only had one friend on there that had played it, and he did not play it all that far on the Switch version. He switched to a different version to play it, which meant I didn't have a lot of people to compete with. I felt like I was missing out on one of the main parts of why that game is really cool. And yet that game just made me feel so slick, so badass, so stealthy, so fluid. It was the best power fantasy I had this year. I loved going through those stages, picking up the weapons, using their alternate fires to like discard them and use that alternate way of playing with them, of finding secrets and solutions, of racing my own ghost, racing other people's times when they were available, going through the challenge modes that makes you play the game in very different ways, going back through the main levels and trying to find the secret presence to the point where I'm not even worried about the time anymore. I'm just kind of playing a different puzzle within these levels to go find these things. I just had such a great time with the game part. I don't love the story stuff. I don't love the voice acting outside of Neon White's character himself, who's voiced by the one and only Spike fucking Spiegel. By the way, Marvel Midnight Suns, if you're gonna get fucking Spike Spiegel to voice Wolverine, maybe put Wolverine earlier in the game. What the fuck?
It's a very long game, and you'll have plenty of Wolverine.
I'm sure I will. I feel like I've played a lot of that game already, and I've seen like 2 minutes of Wolverine tops, and it was the best 2 minutes of the game so far. You haven't even hit
chapter 2. You're in for a treat.
Jesus Christ! But Neon White has a straight from the start. He's the main character. I like Neon Red's voice actors too, but the rest of the Neon crew was not exactly my tastes. But it just didn't matter. I just had such a good time playing the game, and I can only imagine how much more fun I would have had if I played on PC or whatever you guys were on, where I could literally be looking at your times and playing against you guys and trash talking as we were playing it at the same time. But it just didn't matter because the game is so fucking good, and it's my game of the year, Neon White.
I'm surprised when I see it, but it makes sense when I hear it. So, congrats, Neon White.
I gotta say,
deserved.
I was also surprised that it was my number one game, and just nothing else felt right in that spot.
That's fair.
I'll be right back, guys. Sorry. One
Okay.
sec.
I said it in March, Chase, and I'll say it again. Tunic is my game of the year. And for anybody who's been paying attention, or anybody who's looking in on the stream for the first time, you can see that I'm a big fan of Zelda. And I immediately thought I would like Tunic. I did not care for the demo. I bounced off of it pretty hard, but something drew me back in. And this is a game that has tapped into just pure nostalgia on how I used to play video games. And what I mean by that is how we all played games. There was no internet. There was magazines, but not to the degree they are now. There was no Twitters or fast talks. Like, there was literally just, I have to wait an entire school day sometimes to see my buddy at the cafeteria table to talk shop for a bit. And when I think about Tunic, there would be things there like I would borrow guides from my friends after they completed games, and there would be their notes in the game, in the guide. And there was something really cool about they were here before. And it felt like that was something that happened here with Tunic when you see the guide for the first time and you see it start to open up further and there's secrets abound. It's one of the best design games, I think, and it's made by one person, and there's so much of the game that's hidden right in front of you that you'll be wrapping the game up and you'll be like, wait, did I just take this path back to this area that has literally been here the entire time? And it's just so,
and it's not blocked off. It's not like a Legend of Zelda thing where now that I have the hook shot, now I could get to this previously thing.
You
It's
didn't
just
think to look there.
Yeah, the geometry looked in such a way, was built in such a way that you wouldn't even have guessed that that's a secret spot or a ladder would go down this way, but it just is. That is one of the cooler things from a person who has not even played Tunic, that when I see and hear stuff about that, it makes me think, damn, that game seems kind of cool. Like it's got a Fez quality to it of just hidden secrets on secrets on secrets that just seem really, really cool.
Absolutely. It's a hell of a game. I completed it 100%. Can't believe I did that. Can't think of the last time I did that. But Tunic rules. You should play Tunic. Johnny, what do you got?
Sorry, one more thing. I did watch. I think it was AGDQ, maybe it was SGDQ. The game's done quick, and somebody did a run of Tunic, and when you watch a speedrunner play Tunic, somebody who has played the game and knows these intimate secrets inside and out, it's a very different looking game when you watch somebody try to speedrun that. It was very cool.
That's awesome.
Probably even cooler if you had the context of, I played the game, I know these routes, and I know that I wasn't able to use that route first, but just the idea, even for me, watching the speedrunner go down a path and go, wait, where is he going? That's obviously not a path. And like, no, it is a path. It's a path that gets you behind a boss way before you know about said boss. I think that stuff is just super rad.
Yeah.
Awesome. Tunic, you rule. Johnny, what about you?
Yeah.
Number one.
My number one game this year is Elden Ring, which
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, what is this?
It's from this little known studio in Japan called From Software.
The yes. Armored Core people. Okay.
Yes,
Armored Core, Kingsfield.
Sure.
And a lesser known title, Dark Souls, Sekiro. And yeah, so
not familiar.
This is a game that the only thing I'm more hyped for before this came out was Breath of the Wild 2. And my expectations were sky high, and it went above those very lofty expectations, which is why I put it on the biggest surprise category as one of the nominees, even though I didn't think it had any chance of winning, just because how surprising is it really that From Software made another really good video game?
I mean, not for
but-
me, for you, maybe.
I mean, sure, for you, yes. That should have been what I put down as best surprise, was Bobby liking a FromSoft game.
I'm not loving it. Like, it's not in his top 10.
It's not.
It's fine.
But I love this
Hey, that's
game.
my
I love
line.
the world that they built. And I spent more time with this game than probably any other this year. I don't know how close I am to 200 hours. But
I was going to ask if you were at closer to 2 or closer to 300.
Closer to 2. I've got like 120 something on PC and a little over 20 on the PS5 version. Multiple characters.
That's a lot for you.
Yeah, it's a lot of time for me to spend on a single game.
And you beat it.
And I beat it.
Wow.
That's saying something right there.
That's how you know.
I pre-ordered the 2 art books that are coming out next year for it.
2 art books. What's the difference?
They each have art for different parts of the game.
Okay.
They're also like, each one's like 300 pages.
Jesus Christ.
There's 2 strategy guides.
It's going to take you 200 hours just to get through those books.
There's so much stuff in this game. And like, talk about secrets. That was one of the coolest things I've ever done in a game, was playing Elden Ring for the first time and being in this world and feeling like, where can I go? I feel like no matter where I go, there's going to be a secret hidden somewhere. There's always like a hidden wall, or it's just, I love it. I love it so much. I can't wait for them to put out some DLC for it, which I think is almost a guarantee.
Yeah. I mean, they just had the multiplayer.
They did, yeah. They haven't advertised anything yet, but Miyazaki did say that they are making more Elden Ring.
Right before little weirdo.
Right before the little weirdo nominated Reform Orthodox Bill Clinton.
Chase, let's
anyway,
put
that was my game of the year.
Thanks, Johnny. Congrats, Elden Ring. Chase, let's use the power of science that I'm sure you've been using and mathematics this entire episode.
Yeah.
Let's score our show.
Hey, the math's going to be a lot easier because I already did it before and now I did it right. So
why don't
I can tell you what our finals are real quick.
What's our number 10?
So, well, I still think we should talk about some of these ties.
Okay.
So I can run down our list and how many points things got with our weighted list, and we can talk about what actually wins here. So we've got a 3-way tie for 8th place right now between Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Tinykin, and Hard Space Shipbreaker, all getting 8 points each. Number 7 would be Pokemon Legends Arceus, that got 9 points. Neon White and Elden Ring would tie for 5th with 10 points each. Vampire Survivors would be our number 4 game with 11 points. God of War Ragnarok would be our number 3 game with 14 points. And Norco and Tunic both tie at the moment with 15 points. So we don't necessarily have a game of the year at the moment. So why don't we go from the bottom here?
You can move Call of Duty to the very bottom. That's fine with me.
Okay. I think because we've already talked about this, we will do that. Tinykin will end up being our number 9, and Hard Space Shipbreaker will be our number 8. And I think that's solid. That's a good list there. The next thing we need to decide on is Elden Ring versus Neon White. This is my number 1 versus Johnny's number 1. I have nobly, graciously, humbly, the 3 things that everyone knows me as, decided to stand aside and let Johnny's passion for Elden Ring shine through, and gave Elden Ring our number 5 spot, and Neon White will be our number 6. And then it's up to Norco and Tunic. Bobby can't lose. It's his number 1 and his number 2. But
I mean, as we talked about, Norco, I feel, is something that the lot of us played, and
yeah, it's probably more representative of the 3 of us. I know Norco didn't show up on my list. I did have a space before it was so rudely interrupted by Marvel's Midnight Suns. I know that I've somehow gotten the reputation that I am cold on that game just because I'm not as hot on it as both of you are, but I still respect the hell out of Norco. I'm fine giving it our number one. I bet I'd really like Tunic too if I played it, but
Yeah.
I also just feel like I should play The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past because that's a game I have not finished as well.
You should definitely finish that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played it a lot. I've just never finished it. So I feel like that's required reading before jumping into something like Tunic. Anyway, so let's go down what our actual list is. Number 10, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Number 9, Tinykin. Number 8, Hard Space Shipbreaker. Number 7, Pokemon Legends Arceus. Number 6, Neon White. Number 5, Elden Ring. Number 4, Vampire Survivors. Number 3, God of War Ragnarok. Number 2, Tunic. And number 1 goes to Norco.
I gotta tell you, hell of a list.
A good list.
I gotta tell you, for a year where I could care less about most of the games on my list, I think this is a pretty good list for what the year was.
I like it because, not that it matters, indie, AAA, whatever it may be, but I think that there's a really good representation.
Yeah, I was going to make the same point, Bobby.
Yeah, like I'm not one to get too caught up in I only play indies. It's been interesting since we've been streaming, and I've had people ask me, "What do you all stream about?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to be like, oh, we're variety streamers, but I do always say we try to represent games that you should know about." Is how I talk about our show. And I think about our list. Obviously, everybody knows about Elden Ring. I would think most people that are, even people who are not following that genre of game, know about it. Where I don't think a lot of people maybe would know Tunic. I think they're getting to know it. It's very big, but all that to be said, it's been fun talking about games to the degree that we do. And even though we don't always agree on what should be on this list, I think the list somehow over the years has always represented us in a good way, and I do appreciate that.
I agree. Except for that one year that we gave it to Monster Hunter, that was wrong. We should have done that.
This concludes for the second time, wink wink, nudge nudge, our Game of the Year coverage for 2022. I've enjoyed thoroughly talking about games with the both of you, and having a reason to hang out each week has been fantastic. It's been one of my favorite years in gaming in some time, and I look ahead and I see a bright future in 2023. We are going to take a much needed break. We've been podcasting and recording and designing a lot. So as you listen to this, just know we'll be back the last week of January with our standard operating procedures.
Last week of December.
Sorry, last week of December. Thank you, Chase.
God, I wish we could take that long of a break. Ooh. Man, I'd have Fire Emblem finished by the time we do another podcast. That's probably not true.
But we'll be back with Casual Mondays, a January preview, and a Casual Friday stream that last week of December. Everybody who's listening, please take care. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your holidays wherever you celebrate. And anything from you two before we button up here?
Nope.
I really. I'll talk about my podcast pilot program another time. But
okay.
This was good. It was a year. It was a year for video games, but I think it was a great year for the Casual Hour.
Agreed. Fantastic year. All right, you two. Thanks for everything. We'll all chat soon.
Later.